that episode, the fire episode, goes into this vision of the universe as a great cosmic fire and as a great burning. Um, and that, we are in a sense burning our way through these lives, right? There's a heat to this existence, and there's a heat. And this is talked about in depth, which I talk about in the episode, in the Indian understandings of Tappas, the Indian understandings of the primal heat of creation, and how that heat is reflected in individual beings and individual bodies. um we desire and we long for and we yearn, and um we, that fire of desire and that fire of longing and that fire of yearning aren't like metaphorical abstract emotions. It's an actual energy process that's happening within us. The spark of like the want that we have to do and to be and to bring things into creation, and to love and to find partnership, and to you know fight and be in the mix with one another. Like, this is energetic. It's energetic, right? It's animate. It's not, everything in um the modern world and modern discourse in many ways has been reduced to kind of like, um as if this stuff all happens kind of conceptually or ideologically, or and these traditions can remind us very clearly that no, there is an actual heat at play. There's an actual burning at play. There's an actual movement of energy and a heat, and that heat flows between beings, and it flows between beings in love, and it flows between beings in conflict. And it's the friction of existence, right? Existence is a great friction. And within that, it's important to recognize that this is what we want existence to be. We don't, as much as we try to create it, like, with our kind of illusions of like comfort and this type of stuff. Yes, a human being wants a certain degree of, comfort and safety and that kind of thing. But we also long for intensities and long for these, this great burning. We long for longing. We long for love. We long for friction. And so we enact friction in all these various ways because it's something that we want and it's something that we need. So within that, it's like, what does a healthy relationship with the fire of our lives look like? What does it look like? What does it look like to actually be tending well the fire of our lives? For myself, like, I'm from the Western astrological perspective, somebody who has a high concentration of fire signs. And the beginning of my life in my 20s and this time period, I was really fiery, like really fiery, and it took me years and years and years and years and years to start to understand what it meant to be like a fire keeper and not let those fires consume me and consume everyone around me, right? So, but to get to that place where I started to maybe have some small degree of, tending capacity, to get to that place, it wasn't enough for me to to explore my motivations and my needs as a human being as kind of like a conceptual set of needs, or what is it that you really want, Josh, or like, that kind of thing. It was beyond that. It was actual energies that were moving through me. It was like, and maybe people have felt this and can relate. Our life is determined very much by the energies that move through us. And um and our capacity to understand and feel and honor aspects of those energies that are moving through us, and to temper other aspects of those energies that are moving through us. This is very literal fire tending. Like, it's very literal fire tending. These fires that burn in the hearts of human beings have caused human beings to, you know, um, create magnificent works of art, and to burn or raw ore in heated fires till they melt and become bronze and gold, and fashion things into exquisite jewelry, and you know this alchemical longing that human beings have, um, has led us in powerful directions and beautiful directions. It leads us to create fire rituals and to offer things back to the fire and to dance around fires and drum around fires. And like all of this is a type of tending of the Tappas, the friction, the heat of being alive. Um, and it also leads us into, when these fires and frictions take us, leads us into spaces of conflict and leads us into spaces of intensity. And that conflict and intensity manifests as things like, the 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 warrior impulse that exists within human beings, and often particularly exists within men. Like that warrior impulse is a fire. It's one of life's fires, and that's a fire to be tended very, very carefully. And it's a fire that can have, if well tended, that fire can be constructive as opposed to simply destructive, but we have to be able to recognize it for what it is. I did a whole other episode. I don't know if you listened to it, but it's called War and Ritual Ecstasy. And it's specific. I recommend checking it out. It's specifically about why human beings make war on each other. And a lot of the reasons that a lot of the place that war fulfills in human culture is the place of ritual intensity and trance states and this type of thing. Like, the human drive for ritual intensity and trance states is always going to be there. And if people don't find it through regular, intense, bonding rituals in which these states of ecstasy are realized, then they also have historically found it through warfare and through conflict. They're like, the warfare in many ways serves the function, with much more disastrous consequences, much greater consequences, but it serves the function of providing, outlets for this ritualized intensity. And there's an incredible book on this called Blood Rights by Barbara Ehrenreich, which is highly worth checking out. And I talk about that a bunch um, in the episode, the War and Ritual Ecstasy episode. Um, you know, the fire of like warrior energy can be channeled, recognized, and channeled ritually, and it is in many, many traditional cultures, um, so that it becomes what you could call a productive force within the society. But if it's not recognized and it's not channeled well, if it's not tempered well, then it can unleash horrible destruction, right? All of this is like how we work with the fire. How do we work with the fire? How do we, tend the very thing, like I said in that episode, that can nourish us and warm us, but if we don't tend it well, can burn us. To me, probably the worst thing that we can do is pretend that fire doesn't exist. To pretend that human beings don't have within them the warrior urge is denying how human beings have been forever. And there are cultures, intelligent cultures, wise cultures, that have recognized for many, many thousands of years that urge, and have put a lot of time and energy and ritual and story and song towards tempering that urge and containing it and giving it room to breathe, but yet not free reign, you know. But you won't find cultures that don't recognize it at all. Right. And sometimes there's kind of I'm going to get into this in some upcoming episodes, but sometimes there's kind of a like a over glamorization of traditional cultures that happen, in which people assume that oh, it was all completely fine and peaceful and harmonious, and everything was like totally, conflict free until X happens. And name what that X is until, colonization happened, or until these types of things. What you find when you go back into traditional cultures, like Australian Aboriginal traditions, that conflict is right there in their creation stories. It's right there. It's recognized as something in human beings that has to be worked with right from the beginning. To pretend it's not there at all, to say like, oh, this is just a function of modern society, and people never used to make war on each other and that kind of thing. We have to go deeper into history and really ask the people themselves. If you ask the people themselves, they will tell you, oh yeah, we had our time period of like going through lots of conflict. It doesn't matter how small scale the society. They'll tell you how they dealt with it. They'll tell you what they did with those wayward fires, and how they brought it back into the overall scope of fire tending, right? So the fire is there. The fire is real. It's the same fire that makes humans want to create great works of art and procreate with one another, and and sometimes kill one another. It's what you could call eros, right? In the Greek traditions, it's this primal fire of life. And the whole question is, how do we channel it well? How do we channel this fire of life well?